Chairman, Tony's ready.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. So we will continue on.
We'll be on page 34 of your binder for the County Counselor's Office, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Papoon.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mike Papoon, County Counselor. Hopefully this will be fast and not as painful as probably some of your other decisions. 2022 budget for the County Counselor's Office. Move to our organization chart. Just give you a first look at this. Of course, you have the County Counselor, Deputy County Counselor is Patricia Parker. She handles all the administrative matters in the office, fills that void. Then she's supervises Michael Fessinger, and we have a vacant position right now, but that's going to be filled by Chelsea Anderson. We got her from the DA's office. She begins May 31st, so looking forward to having her on board and full staff.
Is that why the DA is short-staffed?
Yeah, exactly.
I was hoping to be after Mark in the presentations this year. But yeah, she comes with a lot of experience, so we're looking forward to having her on board. And then on the chart you see Assistant County Counselor Justin Wagner is supervising our litigation functions, county court, which is handled by Kirk Sponsel, and Kevin Stamper does monitors litigation and handles some of our in-house litigation. And Trish also is over the administrative office person, Alicia Madison, who supervises our 4 administrative positions at this point. We have one that's been vacant and we haven't filled since the hiring freeze of COVID. Our mission and services, you can see our department is basically broken down into four programs, all under the general fund. Administration, general legal services. General legal services is the big portion of the pie chart there. It's about 72% of our budget. Sedgwick County Court and our external counsel and legal fees. The administration function of the office, as I mentioned earlier, is handled primarily by the Deputy County Counselor and our office administrator. And part of my salary, part of Tricia's salary, and a couple of our staff salaries come out of this, and it's to obviously keep our office going and administer the office and keep things running smoothly as possible. General legal services, the bigger portion of our budget is where the other legal salaries and staff salaries come out of, including a large portion of my salary and Ms. Barker's salary. This is the salary that we use to provide all the duties of the County Counselor's Office, represent you at hearings, provide all the verbal and legal written opinions that we do, preparing contracts, resolutions, policies, monitoring and mitigating claims against the county, basically the functions of your legal department. Sedgwick County Court is a separate department, and it was established in 1990. Johnson County and Sedgwick County got legislation exactly the same time. Now I think there are 11 other counties that also have the authority to have a county court. The reason we have a county court is because all the resolutions that you pass that have penalties need to be enforced. And without a county court, we have to rely on Mr. Bennett and the District Attorney's Office to enforce resolutions. And as you can imagine, he has many more important crimes to deal with and things to do. And we at the same time don't want these things to go unenforced. So we have a county court that meets every Monday afternoon, and like I said, Kirk Sponsel is currently handling our prosecution for that court, and the court's primarily there to just collect on county violations of our county code. And then we have external counsel and legal expense. This is for the outside counsel that we use. We use those on more complex litigation, very rarely on legal opinions that involve a complex issue that our office doesn't feel that it has the expertise to handle. I think this is a model that's used primarily by business and governments all over you. You have your in-house counsel, but you really can't afford to have a staff of litigators and the support staff, paralegals and such for the litigators to handle all the litigation. And litigation is ebbs and flows. You never know when you're going to have many lawsuits and not. So it doesn't make sense to fully staff that, and so that's why we have our external counsel and legal expenses. Just to give you an idea of some of the quality performance indicators that we had from last year, we had a record year in monitoring and approving and administering contracts last year, over 5,000, many of them because of the CARES Act and those contracts that we're reviewing. In a typical year, we might have around 3,000 to 3,500 contracts that we'll be touching in some fashion, some drafting, some just reviewing. Obviously, the more boilerplate the contracts are, the easier it is for our staff. We had over 15,000 hours of performing public services for county officials, and the bottom bullet point is what Trish does in representing the appraiser of all the commercial appeals that were done in 2020. 88% of that remained unchanged for the county, which I thought was a good effort on her part, and the work of the appraiser's office, of course. And here's our budget. Administration, we're requesting $157,287, or $287,000, which is a change of minus 2.19%. General legal services, our larger portions, we're projecting to go down a minus 3.07%. Sedgwick County Court, we're going from 127,663 to 126,513, minus 0.9%. External legal counsel and expenses has remained static over the past several years at $200,000. That is the one portion of our budget that we don't have a lot of control over. It's going to depend on how many cases are filed against the county, what kind of litigation there is. But in the last 2 years, 2019 and 2020, we have been able to stay within that budget. So for a total budget request of minus 2.48%. And I believe, this is by category. Personnel, of course, makes up the largest portion of our budget, $1.319 million, and that's going down minus 3.16%. Contractuals stay the same. Our commodities, we're keeping the same. And then for a total budget reduction of minus 2.48. And that's it. And have any questions for me?
Mike, I don't see any questions. Wait, Commissioner Howell.
You know me, I always have to ask a question, sorry.
Hope
Guess what,
for
Mr.
one.
Counselor, I have no questions. I do want to say, though, since you're right there, I want to recognize you. You guys do a great job. I'm very, very impressed with your office and your staff, and you do great work, and I just want to just express my appreciation for a good job.
Well, thank you. I'm sure they're listening right now and appreciate that, Commissioner.
Okay, Mike, I don't see anything else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, our last group of presentations today is from Public Works. We'll be starting on page 758 of your binders, and Jim Weber is here to present.
Hi, Jim.
How we doing?
Pretty good. We just saw you yesterday, didn't we?
I was here yesterday.
Okay.
I have a new mask today, so I'm going to stop touching it. Akeem's on it, I think. We're good. I know you're probably been waiting for your favorite departments to show up, so we're here now. And we'll go. All right, so this is the organizational chart for Public Works. We've got 130, almost 131 full-time equivalents in the department. Most of that is in highway with almost 103. We really kind of look at it as being these are kind of functional areas. So we've got highway administration, that's about 11. Operations, that's our people in the field, that's almost 70. Engineering, the people that actually make all these projects work and put them together, about 12 there. And 7 construction and inspection folks. And just so you'll know, you might not get all these numbers to match up. Those 7 people are actually in the sales tax fund. It don't really show up in this budget you're going to look at today, but that's how they get funded. Storm drainage is a smaller bunch. We've got Scott Lindeback, who's back here, who's our stormwater engineer. They have 6 people in stream maintenance. Those are field people as well. And then flood control, we don't have any people in flood control, but that's where we fund the joint city-county flood control operation. And Noxious weeds has got 5.5. And we didn't break them down by people, but we're just kind of covering real quick. They're doing about 450 private properties a year, 600 miles of county roads, and they have a contract with KDOT to do about 4,000 acres a year. And then Susan is here. I'll talk about stormwater and noxious weeds. Susan will cover the environmental resources, and I won't go real deep in that because she will, and you heard a lot about it yesterday. So overall, our mission is to provide a safe and efficient transportation on the Sedgwick County road system, performing effective preventative maintenance, completing emergency repairs in a timely manner, and reconstructing roads and bridges as required. This number changes. Lynn keeps me straight on these asset numbers, but it's 609 miles of county roads and connecting links right now. Connecting links are pieces of a road that run through incorporated cities, but because the city is under 5,000 and we have a piece on each end, we maintain the piece in the middle. So the smaller cities, we have that going on. 603 bridges. We got 13,000 signs, and they've counted up for me, and we got 68 traffic signal or beacon locations. And then we do complete about 15 major construction projects a year. Highway funding, again, this big green piece that you see, that's sales tax, and so that I don't consider that part of our operating budget. That money basically passes through our budget to get to the CIP projects. So that's about $16 million this year, or in 22, or about 60% of the total. So our operating bunch is funded primarily by property tax and fuel taxes. So we got about $6 million a year in property taxes that come into the highway fund. Then we do receive motor fuel taxes. You pay at the pump. It comes back around to us through KDOT. That's about $4.7 million, or about 18% of our overall. We don't have any control over that. That's a formula. So go buy more gas. That's how we get more money. There's a small piece, about less than $100,000 a year, that comes from our permit fees and other revenue that we collect. We do sell, for example, signs to townships at cost, so that little bit of money shows up there. Highway Department challenges and opportunities. So will not spend much time on this because you're tired of hearing it, but we have problems recruiting and retaining employees, and especially our entry-level people that are down around 30,000, low 30s. They're trying to, start a family or maintain a family, and it's pretty tough. These people in the field, that's what we're talking about. They're very marketable. I'm a little concerned right now because construction is going crazy. The feds are dumping all kinds of money, so it's going to keep going crazy. And so if we have trained equipment operators and CDL drivers, they're going to be a target because it is a sort of population demographic that will jump for the money. Trying to control costs of our preventive maintenance projects, and again, capital improvements, and we're in this really volatile materials and construction market right now. For example, we didn't bid it, but the North Junction project was supposed to be $30 million, and it was 36. Trying to buy steel pipe, can't get anybody to lock in a price. So we'll have to keep working with that. And we're trying to right-size the number and type of vehicles in the fleet. That would help control operating costs, and we want to get the right equipment because it'll maximize our efficiency of operations. The overall budget, again, this total, I think what I want to tell you about this slide is it shows going from 24 million to 26 million. It shows the 3.63% increase. There's a little inaccuracy in that because, again, it's got the sales tax piece in it. So we did roll back in 2020. We rolled back the sales tax projections because we didn't know what happened with COVID. Things look pretty good. That's coming back, so that shows this almost $2 million jump coming in the sales tax. If you take that out of the equation, then we basically have a flat budget that's about 0.9% of a percent increase in everything else. So that's the good news, I think, that it's coming back. Yeah. We do have a couple of decision packages. The first one is telematics for our public works vehicles. So telematics are, in this case, they're cellular-based pieces of equipment for the car people. You plug this thing into the ODB2 and under the dashboard, and that starts monitoring when the thing is running, how fast it's going, did you put the brakes on. Everything that onboard computers can pick up, they can start reading it. Add a forward-facing camera to it. We can start picking up, what drivers are seeing or what they're approaching or what's happening in front of them. And we can start to get, because of the cell features in it, we can get GPS data so we can track where the vehicles are and what they're doing. This is useful for us. There is an issue if we have a storm event or a natural disaster and we're trying to make sure in a storm, for example, we're covering all the roads, we're able to get real-time data about where everybody's at and trace where they've been. All kinds of things come up. If we have an accident, we'd have actual data that our risk people and our county counselor's office can use to figure out, is our deal, do we need to go settle this thing or do we need to go fight it out? And right down to, we get claims for all kinds of weird things. I will tell you just a short story. Last week, we did have a citizen of the city of Wichita, West Wichita, inside the city, who house backs up to West Central. He was out mowing his lawn. He was pretty sure he almost got ran over by 3 county trucks because we didn't move over or do anything. And so that email came in. We went out to business to try and track it down, which for us was we happened to have a staff meeting, foreman's meeting the next morning. We were able to get all of our foreman one, please. Hey, anybody been out there? Word comes back, no. But now we have this issue of really hard to tell a citizen he didn't see what he saw. So we did kick that over. Our best guess is it was city vehicles. Wichita does have telematics. And when it came down through Alan King's office and down to their people, they were able to pinpoint 2 out of the 3 trucks off of their telematics and deal with it quickly. Nobody got hurt, but that's just the kinds of things that come up, and that's a no-cost deal. But if someone had gotten injured in that deal, then we're back to the whole claims thing. Did he jump out in the street at the last second? All these questions that we could answer if we had this equipment. No need for additional people, but the annual cost, and it would be an ongoing cost, is about $78,000 a year for all of our 110 vehicles. The second one, we're looking at a remote control mower. We did a demo with this last year. It's about a 78-inch deck. If you think about a big riding mower, except it's all built down low. It's on tracks, so it can get through swampy areas, tougher grades, whatever. It's really good on slopes. It's good getting around maybe the ends of bridges, back under things that we just can't get to. So we're looking at one of those to share amongst the yards and get, it was a very good piece of equipment for us last year when we tried it, but we would like to try to add one of those. That's about $83,000 a year with don't have this broken down, but $83,000 this year, and then it drops back just to the annual maintenance and the outgoing years. And I think it's about $70,000 for the piece of equipment. Again, no positions needed. So this is our total. We've got $161,000 worth of decision packages for you to consider. We do have one reduction, and this is a little bit complicated. I've tried to make it as simple as we can. So today in highway, we have a bookkeeper position, full-time, and then we have in noxious weeds, we have a half-time administrative specialist, and household hazardous waste has a half-time administrative specialist. And what we're trying to do is shift so that we move, I'll just go to the next slide, make it a little bit easier. We want to take the bookkeeper that's in highway, move that up to administrative specialist, but change it to half-time out of the highway budget, and add the other half position back to the household hazardous waste budget, which Susan will talk about it, but it comes out of the solid waste fee. And then we have this person in noxious weeds that would change from being half funded by highways and half funded by noxious weeds has a half of a position, so They would keep their half, but we would just be sliding this Highway 1 through there and over to household hazardous waste. No change in positions. The documents would indicate that this would save about $31,000. It's closer to $23,000 because we're, again, trying to upgrade the bookkeeper position. So that one, actually, that's probably good enough for that. So the alternative reduction, this is where the kind of misleading numbers are. It's $31,000 decrease. It's more like 23 if we upgrade that position from a bookkeeper to administrative specialist. And we would lose half of FTE in highway. Any questions about highway before I go on? Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you. First of all, your decision package 1, I was obviously involved in that discussion, and I appreciate the fact that because City of Wichita had telemetrics available, that they did own up to what happened out there, but the individual was very concerned that it was Sedgwick County vehicles, so I support that. The second decision package you've got, as I recall, a year or so ago, you came to us and said you needed this fancy boom mower to be able to reach over and get ditches and so forth, and that was supposed to be the solution. So that doesn't work, or why do we need something different? Because we just approved some big fancy booms.
So it does work, but it's limited. It's got about a 20-foot reach from wherever you can actually get the equipment. And so this is one piece of equipment shared around the whole county to get into tougher places that we can't get to than that. Probably places we're not getting to right now. Probably down and around bridge throats and so on, where in that swampy area we need to control the trees before they get going and mature down on the bridges and behind guardrails and places that are on a high slope. We can use both of them, but they're certainly, it's a lot going on, and it's just something we want to bring to your attention and talk about it. It's one more thing for the arsenal, I guess. So.
Okay. Well, you used kind of the same justification the last time, so I just...
Everybody likes a nice clean ditch, though, you know?
Very good. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. Commissioner Allen.
Thank you, Chairman. I am curious, on the org chart on the front page, where does the mowing, which box does that mowing fit into?
Highway operations, that's 670 people. Third one down on the left side.
Okay. And we're still doing essentially 2 mowings a year, primarily?
We try to
on
get 3. It
to
just
do
kind of
3.
depends on the weather. We don't want, if it's really wet, you don't want to go in there and just make a bigger mess in the ditch than you need to.
All right, well, thank you.
And I get that we do hire 12 temporary mowers, so that's weird. 0.6 number is 3.6. That's 12 mowers for 3 months. That's what that is. The only temporaries that we have. At least we try to get them. We had a little trouble last summer, but we're out on it again. Okay.
And then, Jim, on your decision package 2, is there a difference between a step slope and a steep slope?
Oh, man. There is.
I thought, okay. Well, I live in the city, so I didn't know maybe it's a step slope.
We need to articulate it more for the step slope, though, so.
Okay, I got it.
Man, I was changing this up to this morning, but we missed yet one more, so
It's all right. No donuts for you.
I need them.
I didn't say that.
I know where it came from.
All right.
Anything else on the grammar or the spelling?
No, that's good.
All right, I'm gonna try to get out of here. We'll talk about weeds. So their mission is to promote and perform sustainable noxious weed management practices and maintain or improve the agricultural productivity in Sedgwick County. And just, for reference, the noxious weed law is really all about agriculture. It's an old law. It's about protecting the agricultural economy and these noxious weeds are things that they have no natural predators or anything that controls them. So you literally have to go out and dig them out or kill them. And so that takes quite a bit of effort. It's a small group, but we try to work with the property owners. So their money comes from property taxes, and now the Noxious Weeds Fund. They do sell some herbicides, basically at cost. It's a discount to try to encourage landowners to take care of them on their own. And in some areas, they actually do the treatments and have bill backs for some of that. We have a contract with KDOT to do their right-of-way. KDOT contracts all over the state with the local counties rather than set up their own system. A lot of what they do is education. They try to assist land managers on weed management. That's not poison ivy. That's the 11 or 12. I won't even ask them, whatever the number is of actual noxious weeds right now. Again, they're inspecting and treating 4,000 acres for KDOT. They're doing about 2,400 acres for the county, our road right-of-ways, county-owned properties. And then they're dealing with private property owners in about 450 places a year. And there's a lot of mapping and tracking that goes on because it's like trying to get rid of dandelions, which are not noxious weeds, they're just obnoxious. You got to really keep after them. Their challenges, again, they share the same problems we have. Their technicians are kind of at the beginning end of the scale. So they're down in this kind of 30,000, low 30s pay range. So recruiting, training them, and keeping them is difficult. They are a small department. They have not been fully staffed for over 2 years. Just seem to get one and then lose one. They are working with some new mapping software that should make tracking and treating noxious weeds more efficient. Give them a better look at infestations from year to year and find out what treatments are successes. They are moving towards some portable vehicles in the devices in the vehicles to try to help with the record keeping and mapping, site identification, and communications about what they're doing and what's working. No decision packages, no changes, reductions. They're pretty much flat at 2.28%. And I guess I haven't checked this. I'm guessing that's showing up there because they're a separate fund and perhaps that 4% pay pool is showing up. No, that's not it, right? That's what I get for trying, so. Pretty flat for a small group.
Yeah, it would just be based on whatever their snapshot was in February versus last year. Benefits could be
I
anything.
like my story better.
Well, but your story is wrong.
Okay. Any questions about noxious weeds before we go on and I talk about drainage?
Well, can I ask, so on the long sheet, it says noxious weeds, 70,000. Is that budgeted, or is that just the property tax supported?
So if you look, I'm assuming you're talking about the
Line
row
51.
So that's their fund balance.
Oh,
That's how much
sorry about that.
basically cash they have at the end of each year. And so based on the size of their budget, which you can see on page 788, we try and keep that relatively flat just to make sure that they're funded appropriately.
Okay. Thank you.
Mark is here wearing the purple shirt today. I like that.
Great.
We'll call it purple. It might be a little blue, but it's purple for today. All right. We'll move on. Storm drainage, provide a safe and efficient transportation. I'm sorry. Boy, I messed this slide up. Okay, they're maintaining county drainage infrastructure.
Jim, we need to take a break real
No, I'll be fine. Pete's got me messed up with step versus Steve. Yeah, I can do it. I always appreciate your encouragement. We try to take care of drainage stuff. That's their mission. So we do have some places where we have some ditches that are not on right-of-way, for example. We have storm sewers and things. We have places where they're working on our actual infrastructure. Again, this funding for flood control flows through stormwater. Again, no people involved with that, but that's just where it shows up in the budget. Stream maintenance does what we'd call targeted maintenance on natural stream systems. So there are places that it's just better if we go in and take some blockages out and kind of straighten things up, maybe up or downstream from a bridge, or there's some kind of critical places, and that's the kind of work that they're doing. Also working in conjunction with our bridge people, because again, if we get a blockage in the throat of a bridge, or we get a bunch of timber up growing up in a throat of a bridge, we really need to get it out of there to try to keep these things open. So there's kind of they do the more destructive parts of that. Then Scott's working on stormwater plans and studies, permits and projects. We have to review all the drainage plans for subdivisions, for example, and then, as I think you most all know, we have this ongoing string of drainage complaints that somebody has to track down, and we send Scott out to go take a look at it and try to develop solutions, or if there is one. This one, again, I would say this is probably flat budget, but again, it looks weird because every year they pull out the interfund transfer to start the year that funds the CIP with the city of Wichita. And so that's $657,000 dropping out of there. I didn't do the math, but when we get all done, and you'll see next week, we have a CIP request in to fund that at $800,000 instead of $5. And when that shows back in, this thing will actually show a pretty good increase, but it'll be a different sort of number. But that's the magic of this particular budget. It's a little hard to track. I think the big challenge here, and it highlights the flood control issue, the flood control system, the original parts of that system are 70 years old. And so they are needing more and more work, rehabilitation. We have concrete structures. There's some steel pipe they're still replacing that was part of the tow drain system. They have issues starting in the central drainage canal down the middle of I-135 where those panels are starting to, if it gets a little leakage behind it, the panel starts to blow, and there's risk there of potentially causing damage to the highway itself. So that's, we'll talk about that more next week, but that's kind of driving the increase in the CIP part of it. And that's, I think that's the biggest challenge we have with them. Any questions about drainage before we bring Susan up?
I think we're good.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
I'll be back after this.
Oh, you will? Okay. For some closing comments?
Yes.
Okay, we can't wait.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Susan.
I'm not going to read you the mission statement, but basically what it is our department conserves natural resources, protects the environment, and we also, by that, helps the entire community by doing those two things. And we do that through the programs that we offer. Environmental resource programs and conservation district, which we funnel money basically through my department to the conservation district, or funded through the general fund, which is about 5.5% of my total budget. Rest of the budget's through the solid waste fee, which are the solid waste programs and household hazardous waste facility, a lot of that which we discussed yesterday with the plan update. We have a total of 12.79 FTEs in my department. Looking at environmental resource, the general fund side, we work with Scotland and back with stormwater. Staff goes out to inspect what we call stormwater outfalls. You're looking for water where it should not be in a dry period and trying to determine if there's a problem. We have discovered leaky irrigation systems and other problems. We notify the landowner, and they're very grateful because that's money they're wasting as well as the water, so we help get those problems fixed. We also require by the state to take a certain number of water surface samples where they think the water might be impaired and take those after a rainfall event and send the results into the state every year. And because of that, they're now starting to drop some of those water surface samples off their chart because they've been coming in clean for a number of consecutive years. So that's good news. We give Scott information for the plan update that he does. We work with other county departments with their safety data sheets, with any chemicals they might have to make sure they're up to date and that the employees understand how to use those and the protective equipment that they're offered. And we do special assessment and other programs for the county, whether that's researching energy issues, which we did a few years ago, groundwater issues, which seems to be ongoing, as Commissioner Lopez knows. I don't know why I'm looking at you. But it is a problem in your area. New land or building purchases for the county. Most recent was the hospital potential purchase that we reviewed. and water appropriations for any water wells that the county has. So we have a variety of non-solid waste issues that we work with also, not just solid waste. Conservation District is funded through the state and the counties all across Kansas. We provide $40,000 a year to help the local conservation district, plus I am an advisor to their board. And we work with them to help get best management practices installed on land. Usually that's agriculture land where they can funnel money from the state to the landowner, and that helps put in terracing, waterways, structures, other measures to stop erosion, keep the water on the land so it has time to soak in. And that also improves our water quality in the rivers. So we work with them every year on those issues. Solid waste programs, I presented the solid waste plan update yesterday to you. We also inspect facilities, especially when there's complaints. We work with the townships on illegally dumped material, and that averages over 100,000 pounds a year of material we pay for to dispose of properly. We work with storm debris, tree limbs, our tub grinder, our air curtain burner. We have education programs, household hazardous waste, swap and shop, small quantity generators. We covered that yesterday. And the remote events are coming up. We have a couple scheduled already in June, so we're looking forward to that. And special projects, we discussed the bulky waste coupon program yesterday. We do the Christmas tree recycling every year. Special cleanup projects. Payne Township has one this coming weekend where we're supplying dumpsters for like a neighborhood cleanup for the entire township. And we're planning an e-waste collection event next spring. So we have a lot planned for the future. We want to, for our challenges, expand some of our programs to include the drop-off medical waste boxes that we have in 5 cities. I'd like to increase that to more of the small cities and work with the police departments on that. We have in a CIP an expansion of the household hazardous waste facility. Originally it was scheduled for this year, but it's been moved to 22. And the reason for that is when we first looked at building the HHW facility, the plan was for a much larger facility. Budget constraints made it smaller. Well, we've outgrown that by quite a bit. So we want to expand the facility, especially the swap and shop areas, so we can have more material on display for customers to take home. We have schools come out and ask us about tours, whether they're college, high school, junior high. We prefer not the lower grades because of the chemical hazards, but we give tours all the time. Even KDHE brings tours through our facility. And right now we have to sort material in the aisles, and we want a special sorting area for the chemicals that are brought off to make it safer for our staff and the public. I'd also like to work on the bulky waste coupon program to have more of those coupons used once they're picked up. So all of this will help us better serve the public through our programs. You can see from our budget, we'll have right now a 4% decrease in 22 from 21. And the decision package that Jim mentioned earlier, right now there's a shared positions located at Noxious Weeds front counter, paid for partially by HHW funds and partially by Noxious Weeds. With the expansion of the facility, I need a full-time person at the facility to help staff the counter for the swap and shop area, work with the customers as they come in, and still have the time to work on the paperwork for the state and all of the other issues that we have with invoicing through our contracts and the collection of the hazardous waste, working with the businesses when they come in to dispose of hazardous waste. So with that expansion, that's what's driving a full-time position at that facility, and it'll make us much more efficient. The impact of increasing the current half-time to full-time would be around $31,500. That includes the benefits. And you can see there on the decision package. Now I'll turn it back to Jim unless you have any questions for me.
Mr. Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to, I guess, raise the issue of the Stormwater Appeals Board. You know when that board met last?
It's been a couple of years. The reason we stopped meeting is because we went as far as we could on the Stormwater Board for developing ranking scales on which projects would get any money that would be available. The problem is there's no money available for projects to help stop the surface water runoff.
And there's no money primarily because we've not agreed to create a revenue stream for this. And I think it's been more than a couple of years since we've actually had a presentation. I guess I would like to just say we have new commissioners on this board. It might be good to have a review of where we are. Because, the flooding issues come and go when there's floods. In fact, last time we had big floods, it was in 2016. We declared an emergency for Sedgwick County. And there was almost nothing hotter than that topic for about a year. But it was a very urgent issue, and there was a lot of attention on there. And of course, as the floods kind of went away, we didn't hear much about flooding except for the part over there by Derby and Hayesville that has groundwater. That was another issue. But I guess I would just say that I've not forgotten about the SWAB. You say SWAB? How do you say it?
Stormwater Management Advisory Board.
Okay, well,
That's how I say it.
I know, it sounds better that way. But I just think that, especially since our new people on this board, it might be good to have a review of where we left off and see if there's any commissioner support. Because again, I think it comes down to leadership and a desire to see a problem solved or not. These things really shouldn't go away. I mean, flooding isn't really gone. It's not here today. Right. It's going to come back, no question. And when that comes back, I'm going to rue the day when we didn't lean forward and solve this when there's not a flood. This is the best time to solve it. So I'll just ask you for that, and maybe we can find a way to get that in front of a commissioners at a staff briefing or something would be a good idea.
Okay. As you know, we've done some studies in different areas of the county. So yes, we could do an update however we arrange for that in the future. I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much.
Don't see anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks.
So the division summary, we actually have a reduction overall of 3.66%, but again, some of that is because of these things that drop out every year and then get built back in. We have $192,000 worth of decision packages for you to consider. Again, this shows a change in full-time here of plus half. We got a reduction package that will take off half, so there's no net change in positions. And any questions that we've missed, anything we can, if you want to grill one of the staff back here, we can bring them up. Let Pete take a stab at their spelling.
Commissioner Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, I just want to tell you I appreciate all the support out of your department. My district has more roads, more bridges, more land area, and you take great care of it. I appreciate that. It's flat as a pancake, so we get your folks involved in it, Scott and so forth, quite frequently. It's primary agriculture, and so we get noxious weeds involved in it, and we got, as I said, a lot of roads and bridges. My one question that I do have, now, remember, I'm not an engineer. I had a business major, but if you look at your division summary, it says 2021 revised was $30,338,702, and your requested is $31,449,356. That seems like it's more, but in your math, it's negative 3.66. So I'm just kind of curious how that the engineers do math. It's different than the way business do.
So Pete's going to check my spelling, and you're going to check the math. There's an obvious error there, but I'm not sure what it is.
That's all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Howell?
My only comment, thank you, Chairman. My only comment is I just want to say, again, I think you're doing a wonderful job. And you got I couldn't possibly name them all, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Mark, Lynn, Scott, and Susan, and of course you, James. You do a great job. And I want to say thank you for all you do for Sedgwick County. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I would just say that the people we have, all the people you've mentioned and all the people that you haven't mentioned, they do like what they're doing, and they like working here. And we like public service, and that's for engineers, if you're in the private sector, you're working for a profit and you're doing things that people need done. But on this side, you're doing public service. I mean, we are talking to the people that have problems that need help, and we like doing that. Every one of them does.
Let me wrap that up also. I know we stole Scott, I think, from Wichita. Is that right? I'm so glad. It was a good steal. We won on that one, big time. And second of all, I think that, we don't pave our roads with by doing it one pothole at a time. I'm very impressed with our infrastructure. Overall, Sedgwick County, I think, we should be very proud. We have some of the best infrastructure for a county anywhere in this region, probably in the entire state. So we don't recognize when we have great things sometimes that we need to. And I wanted to say this reflects on a very well-run department, and you did a great job. Thank you.
I mean, again, I don't want to prolong this, but David Spears set this in motion. The preventative maintenance plan that we're on was something he started 30 years ago. And so our goal is we'll make modifications over time, but is to stay on top of it. We believe in taking care of what we have. And sometimes that's a little friction because somebody might want to do something that's not so good, and we try to avoid that, but we'll stay on it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Scott, I knew you over at the city. We worked together a little bit, and I agree. You coming over here has been a nice addition to the crew. So, and Mark and others. So you're very responsive to us, and so thank you. I think ever since David Spears retired, the service has really gone good. I'm just kidding.
Maybe not.
Just kidding, David. Presentations will need a little work, but other than that, you're doing a good job.
So I just have to be honest. I used to do his presentations, and they seem
Oh,
to be
that's
better
right.
then. So I'm doing my own, and they seem to be falling apart. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks. But our sincere compliments. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, Commissioners, we do have some time for discussion if there's anything you'd like to talk about today.
Okay. Tom, you got any summary statements?
Well, yeah, just a few loops to close up. First of all, since Susan was here, I sent you all an email this morning. I think Commissioner Cruz asked yesterday about energy audit update, and we were going to do that next Tuesday at staff. And then when I looked at the calendar, I realized we didn't have a staff because we have budget hearings next Tuesday. So we'll do it next Tuesday during the administrative section presentation in the afternoon. So we'll have an update for the commission on that. Also, some discussion this morning was centered around exit interviewing. And we have a bid from a company that can go back and do exit interviews with all employees who have left in the last 3 years that we're going to proceed with, and unless any commission wants to not do that, but it's of a dollar amount that I can approve. And I think when we talked about this a month or so ago, the commission was supportive of this idea. We also understand that our current exit survey policy and what we have done for probably decades here needs to be revised, and Sheena is on that. She is going to review a new mechanism or methodology to do accurate exiting, or as accurate of exiting survey as we can organizationally. So we are moving down that track as well. We do have a lot of pay data, and a lot of almost every presentation today had some discussion of staffing challenges. So we've got the ongoing project with Wichita State University where we're doing pay analysis comparing Sedgwick County to competing interests out there, other governments, and in some degrees, like in Chris Labram's place, he's competing with private business. His plumbing inspectors and electrical inspectors are competing. They are licensed, certified practitioners. So in that regard, Chris competes with private industry. So we do some comparative analysis with that kind of component as well. And that is ongoing, and almost by the time this budget is finished, will be complete. I think that's all that I have. Oh, and then one other thing I want to mention. Sheena we vented out a survey about a month or so ago that we gave you input on of current employees, those who are with Sedgwick County, of why they would have to leave the county if they chose to. So not only are we looking at ex-employees, we're looking at current employees, and a number of those employees, over half, mentioned pay as an issue. So those are just some of the data and the science that we are looking at to try to make good logical decisions and give you all the information possible to make a good decision going forward with budget. So I just wanted to tidy that up since we had some discussion around that this morning early. So other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you for that, Tom. To that regard, do we have any idea of what, I mean, we're constantly comparing ourselves to Johnson County. I mean, can we figure out, and I don't know how much staff time this will take and if the commission would even agree to this, but how do we stack up against like-sized counties in our peer cities, around the country? Are we seeing the same problems? I mean, how do we compare? I mean, are we an anomaly? Is this something, I mean, in all departments, I guess that's kind of my question.
I might pass the microphone to Sheena, but I think Johnson County is the anomaly. We generally don't compare ourselves to them. They have a median average income that's vastly different from Sedgwick
I
County's.
mean, as far as exit of employees.
People leaving?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, Sheena, do you have anything on that? Or?
For turnover rate, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So we are roughly, it's been a little while since I've looked at the numbers, but probably within 20%, which is probably not far off from what an average organization is. But there are some departments that have relatively high turnover that we think it's pretty alarming that we need to look at.
So what would be a comparable county? We do compare ourselves to Johnson County a lot for a lot of different things. So I don't think that question is out of the ordinary to ask in regards to this topic. But what would be a comparable county? Tulsa County? What would be the most comparable county to us in regards to income, that we could see what other trends are like around the country? I mean, 'cause how much is this going to cost? I'm not saying I don't want to do it, but I just wonder how much is it going to cost to call how many employees over the last 3 years to see if they.
Okay. I think what you're asking for, we could do in-house was just some peer analysis. The cost of the study for the exit surveys that I mentioned before is about $27,000.
Okay. Are we doing that one time? Is that something we're going to continue to do? Is that an ongoing cost? What is
no,
that?
I
This is the
think
first
that-
time kind of hearing about an actual cost of it.
Well, on the exit survey, I think that's a one-time, and then we modify our existing methodology for exit surveys and try to get it to where it's more robust, to where we can rely on that going into the future and won't have to go backwards again. As far as comparisons of attrition rates of other counties, I think we could make that a staff assignment. We could put an intern on that, for example, and get some analysis. What's hard when you compare county government to county government is all county governments operate just a little bit differently. How they operate their mental health, how they operate their EMS. There's a lot of differences across the country in county operations. So to find that one peer county that has, one large city and 20 small cities within the county, it's really hard to match. But there are counties, when you look at roughly the population, for example, we have a little north of 500,000 people with one large city. We can find peer counties of that nature and do an analysis on what their attrition rates historically are, what happened in 2020 with COVID, and I think that gives us some litmus on how we stack up. And I think we can do that in-house, Commissioner. I don't know if there's any cost to that.
Okay.
Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm reflecting on the study that, I participated in that study. We all got a copy of it. I don't know if anybody else did it or not, but I participated in that study, and I was really scratching my head as to how that was designed or created. It was one of the strangest studies I've ever had. In fact, I took snapshots of every page because it was so weird. I thought I might have to come back and visit this again sometime. Maybe today's that day. But if you don't remember what I'm talking about, I'll be glad to send you the snapshots of that study. It basically pits things against each other, things like time off versus, in other words, things that are all desirable. It says out of these, all these desirable things, like better health insurance or better vacation policies or better, work environment versus more salary, try to weight these against each other. And then they would rephrase the question and do it a little bit differently, sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 different times. I don't know why they did that way, but to me that study was odd. And no offense to whoever did that, but I felt like it was very leading towards an outcome. I think the outcome was predetermined, essentially. I don't think it was a good study. With that in mind, I think if we are going to do a study, we need to be very careful to make sure we understand the strategy of the study, that we get a true and honest reflection of what people really think. We don't want to do it in such a way that we come back and scratch our heads and say, I don't know if I trust the data that I'm looking at because I don't like the way this was done. It doesn't make sense on how it was done. It's important the strategy needs to be understood. So with that, I would ask whoever does this study, please give us a chance, one day, one moment, to understand what the strategy is before they go full bore on this. And by the way, I think there should be 2 studies. One, I think, is for the county-wide organization, including our fire district. That needs to happen. I think that should be county-wide, and I think the 3 years is a great goal. But let me just say, EMS specifically is in crisis mode. That needs to be singled out. And I think it needs to have its own independent study, and it needs to be happening right now. And because we don't have much time on this. And so a couple of other things here. In the private sector, there apparently is a skilled labor shortage. It's happening all around us. And if you haven't heard this, there's companies out there that are paying surprisingly high salaries for the work that's being done today because there's not as many people to fill those jobs for whatever reason. And this is obviously going to impact us at this point. I'm not sure this is an answer as to why things were the way, maybe go back 3 years and say, 2 or 3 years ago, why did you leave? It may not be the same answer then as it would be today if someone was to walk out the door, because salary today is a different issue than it was even 3 years ago. But the private sector has clearly seen an increase in salary that's being offered. And I think that's a reflection on the entire economy. The entire economy right now appears to be on a steep climb right now, and I think that we can see that obviously in the cost of labor. One other thing, I was just trying to add this up. I think one of my sons, I've got 5 kids, I'm not going to tell you which one it was. One of my sons, very aggressive in his career progression. I believe he's moved 8 times in about 5 years because he keeps finding more opportunities. He keeps getting more education and more opportunities. And he just keeps climbing. Every time he makes a jump, he gets a couple more dollars or whatever it is. But there's a mindset between the younger generation today. They're not looking at this like I'm going to get retirement from this company because they don't plan. The average person in this generation will have 8 or 10 different career opportunities over their next 30 years of work. That's just the culture we live in. And so some of this dynamic employment issue may be cultural. I'm not sure there's anything we can do necessarily to combat that. It's just the mindset of many people who are in the younger generation, and there's nothing wrong with that. It gives them lots of experiences, and each time they make a jump someplace else, usually there's some reason. It's either location or it's wages or it's different, more interesting work that they're doing. We even heard, I think, today from one of our presenters today Glenda Martins talked about, the people who left in her area. Some of those people left because of COVID. They left because they wanted to change their career to something entirely different, USPS or become an LEO or whatever it was. And so there's reasons why people leave. And I certainly don't fault them, but we may not be able to necessarily solve that with a pay change, and it may not be that. So again, that's why this survey is so important.
Gina, do you want to talk about the IMA survey real quick?
Yeah. Commissioner, in regards to that survey, that was designed and created by our benefits consultant, IMA. And the reason that they asked the questions in the way that they did is they were trying to pinpoint down what someone's preferred values were within the organization without having them choose 1, 2, 3. So they selectively, based on the person's answer, they would create the next question to make sure that the person was being accurate in their response.
Well, and it's interesting. This went out to current employees only. It didn't go out to former employees. And so again, the former employees actually have history as to why they left, which I think is another reason why we should reach out to them specifically. Let me say clearly, I do think our staff deserve more money. I think across the board, generally speaking, they're all underpaid and they should be rewarded with more money. I wish we could pay them market or even more than market if we could. I mean, obviously, this is a balance and a challenge we've got to deal with each and every time we do a budget cycle. But having said that, it's very, very important to understand the reasons why people leave. If it's opportunities, if it's location, if it's family, if it's sickness, if it's retirement, those are all good reasons. But if it's a morale issue, or they would claim there's toxic leadership issues within their department, they were unresolved and they couldn't speak to people up in their leadership ranks, and they couldn't get heard, and they left because they were unhappy. That's when we need to understand. And that's, again, I think there's some of that going on. Maybe not everywhere, probably not everywhere, but in some cases, yes, that's maybe the issue. So when those things happen, it's imperative that leadership and commissioners understand that truth. We don't want to miss the option or miss the understanding of that. If it's truly money, that we need to understand that as well. But I understand that I'm not sure that any amount of money will fix some of these issues if the problem is something other than money. So these studies are very, very important, and I think one of them is absolutely urgent because we have a crisis on our hands. The other ones are important because our employees deserve to be paid properly, and I know they all want more money. Who doesn't? Everybody wants more money, but we have to live within reality. We can't pay what they want necessarily. We have to pay what we can afford, and it's going to be challenging and difficult for us to figure out the balance of how to manage this county with what we have. We can't always go back to the taxpayers and ask for more, so we're limited on what we can do. We have a zero-sum game of tax dollars, and we have to be able to get the biggest bang for the buck, and we need great employees to provide those services. We need to find efficiencies within departments and then share the cost, the salary savings amongst the remaining employees because they're all more efficient. Maybe that's the answer. But we've got to be smart about how we do this. So I've said plenty. Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you. I just have a question about the third-party technology.
Oh, I guess it turned off. Okay, sorry. The third-party technology study that we've talked about before, has that already been budgeted? And so that's
underway now.
Oh, it started now? Okay, do you
So-
know when that will be finished?
Well, Mr. Alpers has been uploading data for them to look at now, and my understanding is they'll be on site here in less than a month, and they'll conduct their field operations. So then it'll just kind of depend on, I think, on how that goes, but we should have an answer, I would say, by the end of the summer.
And that'll be for all departments?
I think it's focused primarily on Division of Information. Well, what do you call yourselves now? Division of Information Technology?
Yes, Division of Information Technology. They come on site the Wednesday after Memorial Day.
Okay.
And they'll be here for a week.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and again, today was a good day. Got a lot discussed. A constant theme was pay, except for Jim's group. And the other, and as Commissioner Lopez was focused on, was some of this software and technology upgrades that maybe I'm feeling they're outdated maybe, need upgraded. And if that helps the efficiencies, obviously, I don't want to be Captain Obvious with some of those comments. But, as you look around, at least in our city, and I think around everywhere else, I went to lunch at my favorite little taco home-owned place, and they're cutting back hours because it says we have to cut back hours because we can't get enough help. And it's a consistent theme that right now, every market in our city is looking for help, seems to be. So we're kind of in that boat too. We're competing for salaries and jobs, and so whatever we can do to try to make this place an attractive place and a proud place to work will be helpful from my observation so far on this budget process. So thank you again, commissioners. Thank you, staff, for everything that you've been doing so far. We meet, Lorian, tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Is that a Friday?
That is.
Okay.
And you get to hear the finance budget presentation.
Okay. Okay.
Trust me, I'm gonna check them tonight for sure.
There's a thing called spell check?
I've done it already. But Steph and Steve, when I was in college.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. Have a good day, and we'll see you all tomorrow.